You know, with all of these things going on with SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild strikes, I think there's no better time to talk about why these organizations are so important for the industry. Because throughout this entire period of time, I think we've heard a lot of stories about studios mistreating their workers. And one of these stories in the limelight now is from David J. Fielding, the original actor for Zordon on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where basically he stated that he got paid less than $1,000 for all of his appearances in this series. And that alone is incredibly mind-blowing, because Zordon is one of the most iconic, one of the most referenced parts of the entire franchise. And for this dude to get paid less than $1,000 for everything, meanwhile the series got $1 billion in its first year, again, is just plain unfair. But if you know anything about the production of Power Rangers, then you know this is just the tip of the iceberg with Saban Entertainment, and with their gross mishandling of their entire staff. And this is one of the many examples of where Saban Entertainment greatly underpays their actors. And in this case specifically, after playing Zordon just a few times, just a handful of times, Saban Entertainment basically got the likeness for David and has been using that ever since. That's incredible. On his first day, he got paid $150 and became the most recognizable face in the entire series, and yet, overall, just $1,000 for the lifetime of the series. This issue with likenesses is something that's brought up even to this day, with recently an AI proposal that lets studios take background actors' faces and keep them for future use indefinitely, without consent and without any residuals. But this also trickles down with the Rangers themselves, because they were just young actors looking for work, and Saban Entertainment just came around ready to exploit them. And I say that because this is nothing short than what they actually did. Saban Entertainment went exclusively out of their way to pick actors that were outside of SAG-AFTRA. Because when they're outside of that union, you know that there are ways that you can exploit them in ways that the union would never let you do. With long work hours, rushed jobs, injuries, and of course, underpaid actors. Normally, if they went with SAG protocol, the actors would be paid on an hourly basis, an hourly wage that would be fit for what they're doing. Instead, here, they were paid around $600 for every 2 weeks, which is pretty much nothing in comparison to the amount that they were bringing in. In the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the actors knew that this was a big issue. They knew just how big the series was and that they weren't gaining nearly enough money than the work that they were putting in. So when the main cast came together to ask for a raise, Saban Entertainment basically just said, "Fuck you," causing 3 of the original Rangers to walk out. And of course, bringing in new faces. And that's really interesting, isn't it? This revolving door that we've all grown accustomed to, where the actors come in and out depending on the seasons, was all born from the fact that the studio didn't want to pay its actors. And that's the thing. In this situation, there was no entity to protect them. So the only thing that they could do was try to put up with the whim of the studio. A studio that didn't care about them at all. Knew that they were expendable and were willing to throw them away at any time. And this also would come in the way of accountability as well, because the original productions for Power Rangers were also incredibly unsafe. Actors would be hurt all of the time and be expected to show back up the next day. And these situations would be incredibly dangerous, such as the situation with Amy Jo Johnson. For her and David Yost were almost set on fire in a low-budget stunt. Something that, again, could have been stopped if Saban just used SAG protocol, which of course they avoided like the goddamn plague because they wanted to save as much money as possible. And aside from all of these physical dangers that were a part of being a part of production, there was also the mental toll that it took on some cast members. David Yost, the original Blue Ranger, had not yet come out by the time that he was making Power Rangers. But that didn't stop the staff from behind the scenes to just relentlessly make fun of and pick on him for suspecting that he could be gay. Back then, the LGBTQ community was not looked at like it is today. And again, there was no organization. There was nothing that he could go to prevent these things from happening. And he said on so many different occasions that his treatment on set had led him to contemplate suicide. All of this would cause him to prematurely leave the series. And it really shows that Saban didn't do anything to protect its cast. In situations like these, the actors don't get a say. Seen as just expendable fuel to the fire, they just serve the whim of the corporate entity. And they're not supposed to speak out or really do anything, just follow what's said. And this pretty much shows that Saban, in his early years, was a cesspool of greed and corporate exploitation. It's pretty much the danger that studios could become if there is no regulating force. Hell, in some scenarios, it can be even worse because the people that are handling the project could be people that are downright evil. But I would say I only talked about a few things that happened on set here. If you want to know a lot more, because it goes on for quite a few more years, hey, just pick up like an article or some interviews and read through them. It might just ruin one of your favorite childhood series if you just go through this. But hey, sometimes you just gotta stare reality right in its face. As always, I was Bayfund, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.